My name is Cappy Powell, and I have the honor of serving on the board of the Johann Fust Library Board Foundation. After Hurricane Ian hit, we were all anxiously awaiting to get news of our island. I had calls from friends and family all over the country, and in fact, my godson from Brussels called too. Everybody wanted to know, how is Boca Grande? How's your house? And then they'd ask, what do you hear about the library? We're back. Welcome to our first program of the 2022-2023 season. Barbara, I'm getting nervous because I want to make sure I get all this right. EMERSON, WICKWIRE have been coming to the island for 25 years. They are avid readers, love our library, love this garden. Emerson told me that for years, he and Barbara have been trying to think of something to do for the library. They are also music lovers. It's been a part of their lives. And as Emerson put it, they have a love affair with Bob Milne as soon as they met him, heard a program, met him in Booths Bay, Maine, and have been friends ever since. Bobby Marquis, our executive director, told Emerson about the time years ago, before our time, when they used to pipe in the Texaco-sponsored Metropolitan Opera into this garden. Today, Emerson and Barbara are our Texaco. Hurricane Ian did not drop this piano into the loggia. Emerson and Barbara did. They brought our speaker, Bob Milne, here today too. I think it's the perfect start to our season to bring music back into the garden. And Emerson, I want to introduce, I don't think Bob needs any introduction because as soon as this program was introduced, we had a waiting list within 24 hours. So thank you all for coming. And if you could come, Emerson, and tell us about your friend Bob and about your love affair with him, the library, and the music.
Thank you. Thank you, Cappy. First, you're not here to hear me, you're here to hear Bob. But just a few short words. Thanks. Basically to Bobby Marquis and to Julianne Greenberg, without which this event would not have been possible. Bobby guaranteed the weather and Julianne took care of everything else. So it was perfect. A little history. As Cappy said, Barbara and I love the library. I usually feel guilty that we are overusing it because Barbara almost on a daily basis brings home a carload of books from the library. To us, we have the clinic, we have the library. They are, in our fabulous island, the two most central for us organizations that we've got. We have been working on this for 3 years. Barbara and I first went to Barbara Edgerton and Lindsay Major, floated the idea. They carried the enthusiasm. Unfortunately, we had the pandemic, we had weather, we had the hurricane, but here we are. Cappy also mentioned, which I loved, hearing about music in the garden going way back to the broadcasts of the Met with Texaco sponsoring it. To me, Bob Milne, and those of you who haven't heard Bob before, the Library of Congress has deemed him a national treasure. He is so much more than that. Bob is magic. But to fit into the library, Bob has an encyclopedic knowledge of music, and specifically the evolution of American music. The first time we enticed Bob to come down for a dinner party a pretty long time ago. We started out with Mozart. We went through Storyville, we went through the blues, we went through rag, we did bluegrass, we were halfway through Irving Berlin, Broadway, the whole range. Bob can talk extensively on classic music, on anything, but to me, he takes us on a journey through the evolution of American music. He is magic. Here's Bob.
Thank you. After all that, I don't know what to do.
Play the piano.
Louis Armstrong once said that he was confused by all of the wordology that had moved into the music field. He said he was confused by words like jazz and boogie woogie and blues, and he named several others. And he says, back in my day, all of that was called ragtime. Now, today I'm going to show you why that is. But I thought I'd just start off by playing one of Louis's favorite songs. It was called the Canal Street Blues. Oh, he said that Dixieland, of course, was ragtime. How can that be? You'll find out. Okay, so this is a tune that Louis used to play in the marching bands that went up and down the streets of New Orleans, and oftentimes, usually, you would hear the band down there somewhere, and then they'd come around the corner, and there's suddenly a band going by you. So here it is, the Canal Street Blues. Thank you so much. Why is this stuff called ragtime? Well, there's an old phrase in the 1890s. He plays in ragged time. What does that mean? He plays in ragged time. Well, it means that the melodies don't land on the beat. See, now you know. Now you can tell the world. No, you don't know. I'm going to play you an example. This was something called Southern Dance. It's kind of slow. What happens is if in music, let's say in classical music, the melodies do not land in between the beats for 99.9% of the time. The melodies land on the beats like this. Hear the right hand and the left hit at the same time. Or marches. Like that. Stephen Foster. All of this beautiful stuff. Yeah, that's, well, not so much in ragtime, not at all. So what did these guys do? Well, they, like I said, they played it in between the beats. So I'm going to play something short and slow so you can hear this. What I want you to listen for is you'll hear the melody arrive and the left hand a little bit in back of it. So the classicists thought this was very poor taste. They were uncultured. There were actually magazines that wrote, this new music is garbage. And he said, these people, they can't read a note, you know. And furthermore, worse, they play in a very ragged time. So at any rate, here's a little thing called Southern Dance. Just listen to this and notice, like I said, the right hand arrives at the end of the melody, and you'll hear the left hand trailing it all the way through. They weren't very good. There, thank you. Now, could you hear that going on in there? Thank you. Now, if tonight or tomorrow or something you're trying to explain ragtime to your friends and they can't get it, just play them that one. It's not very hard. Oh dear. Well, let's see. Well, on the topic of Louis Armstrong, here's another one of his favorite tunes, an old thing called Panama. You don't hear the Dixieland bands play this as much, but they should. It's one of the most swingingest tunes ever written. And it's everything I'm going to play of the Dixieland sort or of that era is going to be in ragged time like that. There will be a test at the end. No, there won't. But you don't have to sit here and listen for the left hand to be a little bit in back. Just listen to this thing, Panama. Oh, and imagine that you hear the different instruments in the band. When I'm playing cross-handed, like they can see, but you can't. Maybe I'm playing the trombone part. Maybe I'm playing the tuba. And if I'm playing right down there in the middle, it'd be one of the lower instruments. If I'm playing up high, sometimes they even had flutes in those bands. It didn't matter what they had in the Dixieland band, just whoever was available to go out and play the gig or march down the street. So here is Panama. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, yeah, there's a little bit of, syncopation. That is the learned word for ragged time. Syncopation means in between the beats. So, one time I had I don't want to name where or when, but it was a college professor that was giving me a hard time. Why don't I just call ragtime, call it syncopated music? Well, if you go back and study the characters that were playing this, or writing it or whatever, they never heard the word syncopation. Most of them couldn't write or read. Most of ragtime was just handed down through the ages from grandfather to nephew and so forth and so on. Only a few people back then could read and write music. One of them, Scott Joplin. I'll get to him. But these guys didn't have this learned vocabulary. They would just, somebody would hand them a banjo or something when they were 4 years old. And by the time they were 5, they were playing with the band. So, it's interesting stuff to get into. Let's see. Many people think that ragtime is just fast piano playing, and that was one of the styles. And I'll get to that too, but I wanted to play one of the blueses like Louis talked about. And this is a thing called the Louisiana Blues. Now, if you study blues, you'll find that they range in tempos of medium to slow to very slow, and from medium to fast and super fast. And they're still all called blues for some reason. Well, I'm not going to go, I know why the reason is, but I don't want to take up all your time with that. So the blues, the Louisiana blues is one of the most haunting things that I ever heard. It's somewhere between the very slow and slow. It goes like this. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, what's the name of that tune? I'll think of one here in a minute. I never know. I have no agenda, so I don't think about what I'm going to play. So, but I think of stuff. I mentioned the Fast and Furious style. My first piano job I got in Detroit playing in a German Rathskeller in, let's see, what year was that? It was in 1964, and I was only 3 years old. But yeah, it was 1964, and I'm self-taught on a piano, and I play everything by ear. So I was in there playing all of these German beer hall songs for these people in Munich. Hofbrauhaus. Eins, zwei, Sofa! Jawohl. I see that they have been there. I saw that. Yeah. But the Rathskeller had a piano over on this side that I played. It was up on a little stand. And it had another piano over on that side. It was a player piano. And they'd just plug the thing in and it would play all day. And I'd come in there in 1964. I was just learning how to do this kind of stuff. And I'd listen to that piano over there, and I heard music in the middle, and I heard music up here and down here, and sometimes up here at the same time and way down there at the same time. And I said, I don't know how that guy's doing that, but I want to be able to play like that guy. So I said, what I think he's doing is playing a lot with his left hand. Sometimes he plays a melody with his thumb and then gets back down here fast enough to keep up the left hand. In the right hand, I think he's playing sometimes the melodies with his thumbs and filling in all over the place up here. So I started flailing away on this piano over here. I played 6-7 hours every night. The customers were supportive of me, and this one guy used to go, keep going, Bob, you're gaining on it. And then finally, after a long time went by, I think it was about a year, a customer took pity on me, and he took me over to that player piano. And he showed me this piano roll. He showed me the box. It was called Do You Ever Think of Me, the song, and it had 1920. And then the names of 3 guys under it. And I said, well, who are they? Did they write this thing or something? And they said, no, these 3 guys are playing on the roll. I said, oh. So it became the brute force school of music that I was in. So here is that piano roll. I'm going to try and recreate this thing. I hope keys don't come flying out on you all, and we'll just see what happens here. I've been practicing mental telepathy. Let's see. I'm always trying to figure out what the audience wants to hear next. I hear someone, they say, "You want to hear something slow?" Thank you. Okay, now this next tune is a special request of Emerson WICKWIRE. This is your fault. The way I usually introduce this tune is to first of all explain that some guy that lived in a rustic cabin on a mountain in Tennessee used to send me his poetry, so-called poetry, and wanted me to write music to it. Well, since I don't know anything about country music and I don't know if this is any good or not, I'm going to try it out on you guys. All right. The name of this character in Tennessee is Walker Hawkins, and you'll hear more about him later. Okay. Well, I woke up this morning all alone. Went down to the cafe where we met. Okay so far? I walked beside the river where we used to stroll along, yeah. Every day's a good day now that you're gone. Did anyone leave? Hear the freight train thunder in the distance. Whistle screaming coming into town. Woo woo. Just like you standing out in the kitchen. I said every day's a good day now that you're gone. Reckless love done run amok. In my heart with it like a downhill truck. Relief I seek, escape I cry. I've been stuck to your mattress like a swatted fly. The race is lost. Finish crossed. And my heart in the dumper has been tossed. Sunday go to meeting, gonna raise my voice in song, singing every day's a good day now that you're gone. Done run amok. Escape I cry, stuck to your mattress like a stuck to your mattress like a. The race is lost. finish crossed. My heart in the dumper has been tossed. At Sunday go to meeting, gonna raise my voice in song, sing it every day's a good day. Now that you're gone, one more time. Every day's a good day. Watch it here. And now that you're gone, oh yeah. Well, is there a back door? Well, I'm at that point in life now that I don't care anymore. I wrote all this Walker Hawkins stuff. I've got that much of it at home. It's, my family kept encouraging me to come up with this rubbish. So that's one example. But if pressed, I'll decline all knowledge. So, okay, let's see. Jimmy Yancey, a boogie woogie player out of Chicago. He was good. He always, he didn't use this kind of rhythm. Not that one. The only rhythm he ever used was, but he could play it in several keys, and he could vary the right hand so much that nothing ever sounded the same. Jimmy Yancey. Well, so I'm going to play you here something in the Yancey style. Now, Jimmy also had an unusual way of ending everything he played. And because I know that you are all true students of music, or you wouldn't be here today, and therefore you want to know, how did Jimmy Yancey end these things? So when I get to the end of this, don't think that the piano came off its rails. No, it's for historical purposes. We're the library, remember? So I think I can get away with this. Is that right, Bobby? Yeah, Bobby approves. So, okay, here it goes. Oh dear. What happened? Okay. Everything Jimmy ever recorded ended with that. He played at all kinds of private parties around Chicago. Everything he ever played, he played at saloons. Everything ended like that. So finally somebody asked him, Jimmy, you're such a great player. Why do you do this to the endings of everything you play? And he said, I can play boogies in C and in E flat and in F and boogies in G. But the only ending I know is the one in E flat. So I played that in C and put the famous Yancey E flat ending on it. And so just for a little example, I'll play just one verse of this and in F. And it'll have the E flat Yancey on it. Weird things happen. Well, in the ragtime era, a saloon piano player is where you would go to hear ragtime, unless you were playing it at home. So the ragtime players weren't allowed into Carnegie Hall or Symphony Hall because, remember, they were playing garbage. Etude magazine wrote that thing that I told you about back in the 1890s. So they were just considered lowlifes and barflies and so forth. So saloon piano players of the era did not stop and explain to you what they were going to play next. Now, I was a saloon piano player for over 20 years in the Detroit area. I played in saloons and not many nightclubs, but a lot of seafood houses. I played 6-7 nights a week for, I think it was 23 years. And then my life changed. A concert hall hired me, and that was the end of my career. So I'm going to play a saloon medley in the style of 100 years ago, or even in the style of what I used to do, 60 years ago, 50 years ago. And that is just to start playing the piano. I'm not going to play for an hour straight like I used to, because I want to show you a few more things too. But I'm just going to string together one tune after the next. If I remember to, I'll put a rag into it, but they didn't always. See, in the ragtime, what they call this ragtime era, 1897 to 1917, the piano players would often, the opera singers would come in, and they'd sing Pagliacci. The piano player would play to them. I did that kind of thing on the Detroit Opera. And folk singers would come in and anything, so a saloon piano player played anything. It just happens to be that era was when they were publishing what was called ragtime, so it's known as the ragtime era. So anyways, I've got no idea what I'm going to play. I'm just going to start and start playing stuff. mercy. I have always wanted to do this. Can you catch this?
Oh, Lord.
There.
Again?
Try again. No, 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 no. Oh my goodness. Well,
You're amazing.
thank you. Everybody knows the blues when you hear it. Blues are never about happy topics. They're about things like a fly in my hair. They're always downers. For instance, imagine you're walking down the street. Some guy sitting there on the curb with a banjo, a hat out in front of him. It's been raining a little. He's singing, I just got a brand new Lamborghini Blues. That doesn't quite fit the picture, does it? That's why I say they're always downers, which they are. Well, this one is aptly named. It's called Trouble in Mind. Trouble in Mind. It's got a very pretty melody, as you can tell. Don't let that fool you, because this tune is actually kind of weird. Bob, what do you mean it's weird? Well, first time I ever heard this, I was playing with a Dixieland band along the Detroit River. It was around 1972 or something. The band started playing this, so I just strummed along with them. The clarinet player, Mr. Walter Gower, he leaned over and he took the microphone and he sang all 17 verses to this thing. I'm not going to do that. But because I know that you are true students of music and you want to know why this is weird, I will show you. The lyrics. Doesn't start off so bad. trouble in mind. I'm blue. I won't be blue always, 'cause the sun's gonna shine in my backyard someday. Hallelujah. Okay, so far, yeah. Second verse. All alone at midnight, the lamp is growing low, growing low. I ain't never seen so much trouble before. Still okay? Yeah. Now we're gonna cut out a bunch of verses. We're gonna go up to verse, which is right around number 11, I believe. I'm gonna lay my head on some lonesome railroad track, and when that 215 comes, oh Lord, I'm gonna yank it back. And then there's more meaningless verses that go on past here. But then they come up with another one before they get done with this tune. This is not a repeat. They just kind of touched up their wisdom somehow. It goes like this. I'm gonna lay my head on some lonesome railroad line, and when that 657 train comes, oh Lord, it gonna satisfy my mind. I got trouble in mind, boys. I'm blue. I won't be blue all the way. The sun's gonna shine in my backyard someday. Sweet. I said the sun's gonna shine in my backyard someday. Oh. Oh, it looks like I got time for one more tune. So what I'm gonna do here is play what is likely the most thundering boogie in the world, the most powerful for sure. It's called the Honky Tonk Train Blues. Well, this one's got a little story to it. Another Chicago boogie player named Meade Lex Lewis came up with this thing in 1921. It's been recorded many times since then, but the recording that I'm thinking of is one that came out of 1986. And the piano player was someone who would never dream was a piano player. His name was Clint Eastwood. Clint he's in his 90s now, and he was a very good piano player. So he made a movie called The Honky Tonk Man. Clint plays a pretty rough character. You're not gonna like him. But if you want to hear him playing this tune, go and look at that movie. And in the 1980s, when the movie came out, he was playing some barroom piano, and one of the cameras was right in back of him, and of course he had a floozy sitting on the piano, and Clint's playing this thing. And my friends were telling me, well, he's faking it. Well, I'm looking at it. I said, well, he's doing a good job of faking it, because the same notes are coming out of the movie as the ones that he's pushing down. Notes, rhythm, all of it. So, okay, so then years went by, and I'm going to guess it was maybe 8 or 9 years ago now. I was out in California at a camp, and I was walking through the woods, and I bumped into Clint. He was just going along by himself, so I said to him, of course, I said, hi, I know you, everybody knows you. So I told him I'm Bob and I'm a piano player, so there's a bench there, so we sat down and talked pianos for a while. And I said to him, I said, I think you actually played the Honky Tonk Train in the movie. And he said, yeah, he did. And I'd already known that he'd been a piano player earlier in life. He played in some saloons when he was trying to get into the movies. And he said he wanted that tune in the movie, and that he wanted to play it because he used to. And it took him a long time to get back so he could play it again. But he did it, and it kind of upset him to hear people say that he had cheated, hired somebody else. So we got that straight. So I said to him, well, fine, Clint. I said, no, you got to go that way, and I'm going that way, but I got a story that I want to share with him. So he said, well, what's that? So I said, well, me and Linda, we were down south of where he lives. Of course, he lives in Carmel. The Big Sur Redwoods was down there. And there's this little shack out in the woods that was called the River Inn. And we stopped in there for lunch one day, and Clint said, yeah, he says, I love that place. It's got a piano, and him and his friends, they'd go down there and play it. I said, I know. I said, I was playing it there, and the lady that owns the place, she told us that you, Clint, came here and played this piano. So I asked that lady if I could leave him a note. And she said, sure. And he stopped me. He said, Bob, she never gave me a note from anybody. I said, let me finish this. I said, I wrote you a note on the back of one of my cards. I gave it to her, and then me and Linda left. We got in our car. And then I chickened out. I went back inside, I picked up the note and left with it. And he says, well, how come you did that? Well, I said, I guess it's safe to tell you now. I said I'd written kind of a smart alecky little thing on the back. I'd written, hey, Clint, new piano in town. New piano in town, says you can't play. Come on down, make my day. And he just broke up laughing. And he said, Bob, why did you not leave me that card? I would have loved it. Well, so I told him I was afraid I'd be home in Michigan where I live, and it would be a dark and stormy night. I actually used that phrase. And I said, I'm afraid I'd hear knocking on my door. And did you guys see Unforgiven? And for you who didn't see it, Clint plays this hired cowboy who's a hired murderer. And he is just a grim character. And his name was, what was that guy's name? William Money. William Money was the character's name. I told him I was afraid I'd hear knocking on my door at home. It'd be raining like mad. I'd go and open my door, and there would be Mr. William Money standing right in front of me with the bullet straps here and the guns on his side, and he'd say something rude to me. And I said I would have died. Well, anyways, he broke up. He made me write him the poem. I only had one card. It was a hat just like yours. I've got a hat like yours, the Tilly Africa hat. Yeah, the Tilly Africa hat. And I had been to Africa in that hat, and I'd already owned it for 7 years. And I'd been in the African heat, and I had one card in it, and now I'd been wearing it for another 5 years or whatever. So I pull out this card, and the ink is all run on it, and I write out the poem for him on the back of it and give it to him. And he looks at this, he says, "Is this your card?" It's all I've got right now. But anyways, I've seen him a few more times, and we continue to get a kick out of that little story. So at any rate, here's the Honky Tonk Train Blues. Before I play it, I want to thank Bobby. I want to thank your entire library staff. I want to thank Anthony on sound. Thank you. I want to thank Emerson, WICKWIRE, and BARBRA, and others who have been assorted and who have put this event together and have brought you to me. See, I can't do this without you. I never play the piano at home because nobody's there. I'm serious. I really don't. I don't. I came over here today and made sure I could still play this thing. So here's the Honky Tonk Train Blues.